Welcome back to Animal Crossing New Horizons. I'm Dear Darling. Shall we see what's going on our lovely island of Fawnhallow today, where we'll be relaxing as per usual. You know the drill. You know how the opening goes. One of these days I should really reverse it and be like, today we're not relaxing as per usual. Shock horror. We're having a stressful time. Doing what exactly? Who can really say for certain? But anyway. What are we going to talk about today? That is a great question, one I don't have an answer to. But good evening, everyone. Right now in Fawnhallow, it's 9:08 PM on Wednesday, December 18th, 2024. What am I going to talk about? New ZZZ patch out. Haven't had a chance really to look at much of it, to be honest. You might be, did you pull for me, Abby? I didn't pull for me, Abby, actually. I just kind of, well, actually, to be fair, I did throw a few pulls. Just to see, but I was like, I'm not really willing to go to hard or soft or hard pity for it, so I think I'm on 50 pity right now, and we're saving up for maybe Astra, probably Evelyn. We'll see how it goes. I don't know, depends who's after them. Anyway, what are we going to talk about today? Great question, don't have an answer for you. I can talk a little bit about the fact that I've got this. Well, I want to talk about it more when I actually get stuck into it. But if I'm like a Secret Santa, essentially, I got a crochet kit, essentially. Well, when I first saw it, I thought it was just like a general crafts kit, and I thought it was about assembling the thing together. But opening it up and looking inside, no, it's actually full on crochet. And I have a friend who's actually she's super into crochet at the moment. She's made some absolutely wondrous creations thus far. She's doing a very very cool thing where for everyone's birthdays, each person's birthday is coming up in our friend circle, which perhaps too large a friend circle if anything, for how many crafts she had to do throughout autumn time. She's making these little things, and then I sent her the image being look, I got a craft kit, and foolishly enough, last night I was like, I wonder what I can do, what do I feel like doing at this sort of nighttime moment, and then I was like, oh, maybe I could get started about crochet stuff, and I opened it up and the instructions were just nigh incomprehensible. I was like, whoa, I know crocheting was difficult, I didn't know it was this difficult. Now I taking time to actually look at it, I understand it's not, it is difficult, it's not exactly going to be a walk in the park or anything, but I understand it now, what I'm looking at a little bit better. Because when I first looked at it, it's literally just a page, because it's just a pattern, essentially, what's going on. And it basically just tells you, this is what this is each stitch you need to do in turn to create the thing you want. And, of course, I've never done crocheting before, so I looked at it and went, what? And then they have, a helpful reference guide of the stitches that you need to do and, what they mean. And I looked at it and I was like, these images are really, not helpful enough to describe what's going on. But I was like, okay, no worries, they have a QR code, I can scan it, and we've got a video playlist of making each part of what it's actually a mini sort of Santa, kind of like a gnome looking Santa is how I describe it. But then I opened up the video and it goes so fast that I was watching a 0.25 speed, and I was like, I can't really follow on. This is clearly a video which is meant to be if you know crocheting already and you're like, oh, what does it mean, exactly how presumably do these stitches want to go. I know no crocheting, so this is a big jump up, I would say, but I'm excited to actually at least give it a try, just to have a sort of knowledge of it. I looked at it again this morning and I was like, okay, now I actually kind of understand what the images are saying now. The thing is that they had a blue string and a red string in the image, describing the stitch, and I was like, why are there two strings? Is this for connecting things? And I was like, it doesn't look like it's for connecting things. I understand it's that's I don't know, I'll call it a slack lead if it was climbing or something, and the active part you're working on all coming together. So I'm excited to get stuck into it. Certainly crafts work or stuff like that is not quite outside my skill set, I don't think. I don't remember how to knit anymore, but when I was much younger, I did at least remember how to knit. I could knit something very simple, like a scarf. Crocheting is just advanced knitting, isn't it? And I've done a lot of sewing work before. All by hand. I don't have a sewing machine. At some point, I was like, maybe I should get one, but I was like, I should actually probably take up the craft of plushie crafting first before I actually really get into that. But maybe, I don't know, if I find this fun, maybe I'll find out like a sort of step into it, being like, yeah, I'll do it a little bit more. But yeah, I don't know, like, I don't know if you've ever followed, have you ever followed instructions before? Almost certainly, probably. But if you've ever, like, had instructions and then tried to, like, put it together, you know, but people often say, like, IKEA furniture, and think, or, you know, what else is very common for people to, like, assemble, like, Lego sets or kits or things like that. I never found them particularly difficult, I would say. Well, not to a same sense. I feel like I would struggle to a large degree over, like, I feel like IKEA's got like quite a bad rap when it comes to a bad rap when it comes to how difficult it actually is to assemble things, you know. Assemble things through whatchamacallit, through IKEA instructions. I feel like IKEA instructions are actually generally pretty good, to be honest, like DIY sort of style. They do a good job of sort of illustrating what steps you need to take and what you need to do to actually put things together. I don't think it's so much as reductively difficult as it should be. Maybe should be is not the right. Maybe should be is not really the right thought process, but it is very much a thing where it's like, you know, it's not all that bad. At least putting it together. And honestly, I don't think it was probably all too bad. Either, like, well, I'm not sitting here in retrospect being like, oh, this is what it's going to be like, you know, assembling it together. I can only really speak afterwards. But I think very much after Steam Replay. Sorry, my friend just like shared a Steam Replay, so now I want to look at my own one. I very much don't think it's going to be as bad as maybe like my first impression was when I looked at it and went, what? Yeah, because it is a little bit overwhelming at the same time. It's not suddenly something that I look at it and be like, this is the easiest thing I've ever heard of. The easiest thing I've ever heard of, like looking at instructions and sort of assembling it together. Like, I'm sure if I'm basically certain that if I can just learn the basic stitch, it should be fine. Because I'm looking at it, it looks like it was one stitch basically repeated over and over and over again. I can't remember what it was called. It was called like a double something. I don't know. It's like DC double check double. I don't know. I generally can't remember what it's called off the top of my head, but it's something like that. But yeah. I don't know where else I was going with that, but it's a sort of thing where it's like, it doesn't feel like it will be as bad as maybe it could be. Yeah. I'm just trying to think of like difficult instruction things I followed in the past. I'm not saying that I'm comparing them to crochet. I think it's a different skill set, this plus crochet. But I'm just trying to think of things I've like done in the past, assembly wise, which probably also had maybe not equally confusing instructions, but also had confusing constructions to put together. Because I remember one time for my birthday, it was sometime in primary school. I remember this, and I don't know why this happened, but my parents just sort of went along with it for some reason. But I remember wanting this like Connects roller coaster thing you can make, but it was pretty expensive. Like I don't remember how much it is. I mean, maybe I can look at it now and we can get a sort of judgment of how expensive it was. But to child, like 8-year-old me, I was like, this is insanely expensive. So I felt like really bad for asking for it. So I'm looking at it now, £40. That's not nearly as expensive as I thought it was going to be. I mean, yeah, it's expensive, but I mean, it might have been around that sort of price as well then, to be honest. But I remember I was like, I will choose to have this Connects roller coaster thing instead of having a birthday party. £60? That probably seems more reasonable to what the price is. again, it's not nearly as expensive as I remember it being. But £60 is probably quite a lot when you're 8? Question mark? 10? I don't remember the exact age. So my water bottle is in a weird location because I need to go refill it with water. I'll put it down here for a moment. But I remember saying that I'm not going to have a birthday party. In exchange, can I have this gift? And probably my parents at the time thought that meant, rather than it being like a sort of like a guilt thing or whatever, probably thought that meant I didn't want a birthday party that year. I don't remember if I did want a birthday party or not that year, to be perfectly honest. I don't really remember what went into it, but all I remember is I didn't have a birthday party that year because of that roller coaster thing. Maybe that's a false memory I have in my mind. Maybe that's not exactly how it happened. I'm sure it's been exaggerated from what I recall. But anyway, long and short is I assembled that Connects roller coaster thing like all on my birthday, or maybe the day after my birthday. Can't remember. I remember one part, like I was stressing out a little bit over it because the cable rail thing, they give you like excess to make it long, to make sure it stretches over the entire thing and you can cut it off. And then I remember I cut it a little bit too short and I was like, no, I ruined the entire thing. But no, you can just stick a little bit more in from the excess and it's completely fine. It was a cool roller coaster thing, and I played with it for all of but one day. And then like never again. It just stayed in that like a small spare room we had it fully assembled. But I remember bits and pieces from it. Like I feel like I remember its roller coaster car on it. Like it had people in it which could like flip over or something, and it got boosted up by like these like how in Hot Wheels racetracks you have like these two spinning wheels on either side which spin just really really fast, and you put like a car into it and they go whoop, they zip through. It had that thing to sort of like get up, and if anything it kind of looked like Stealth from Thorpe Park, which is a roller coaster theme park in the UK, where basically it goes like vertically upwards and then it goes like drops down. But then this Connects one had like a loop in it. Anyway, but long and short of it is like I remember assembling that together, and that was probably like decently difficult, right? I don't remember. I feel like I remember building a lot of very complicated things with Connects when I was younger. I feel like I remember building a Ferris wheel as well. Don't remember what came with that, to be honest. So anyway, long and short of it is like I'm sure I can learn how to do this crocheting thing together. This crochet thing of Father, and I just realised it actually says the words Father Christmas on it. I don't know how I missed that. But I think it'll be an interesting sort of experiment. Do I see myself getting into crochet a huge amount in the future? Maybe, I don't know. Knitting, crocheting, like maybe. I feel like I do prefer sewing a little bit, like needlework a little bit. You might be like needle felting. I don't know, I haven't really tried needle felting, to be honest. Needle felting doesn't appeal to me as much, I think. But I haven't really done it, so I don't know. Maybe it will. Maybe I'll do it and be like, whoa, that's crazy. I guess I'll talk about my Steam replay tomorrow. Because I'm close out a bit just to make sure I'm focused on this. But yeah, I'm interested. It's like, I don't know like what in my mind crocheting really was before. I guess I built my concept of what crocheting was based off knitting before. The only thing I knew about crocheting is you needed a hook, but I didn't really know what you do with a hook. But basically what it looks like is you're tying sort of, well actually I guess it is kind of similar to knitting in the sense that like knitting you have like these loops and you sort of like wind the things together in kind of like knots, but knots is not really the right word. Crocheting kind of feels like you're doing that, except for you don't have the two needles, I suppose, to do the knitting part with. You just have the one, and you're sort of like intertwining things on itself. That's kind of what it looks like, but I don't know. I'm excited to see how it goes. Maybe it'll go terribly, maybe it'll go super well. That is a mystery, to be sure. But certainly a welcome one? Probably a welcome one. But yeah, like, difficult, like, I guess what I'm trying to talk about are these sort of very difficult, confusing to understand craft-like images. You know? Like with things where it's like, this is instruction, you need to do it like this, and you look at it and you go, what does this mean? Even in the slightest. And sometimes it makes a lot of sense and sometimes it doesn't, to be honest. I'm trying to think of like really confusing ones I've seen before. I think the confusing part is not so much well, okay, it's two parts. Sometimes they give you like a very complicated action to do and try and illustrate it in images, and it's like nonsensical. It's like you should have broken this down into more steps. I remember once I was trying to learn how to do like some specific tie knot. I don't remember which one it was, and I looked at the steps and I was like, what is this? If you just broke this down into more steps, it'd be much more comprehensible, but I don't know, saving ink or something. But yeah, instructional images. I feel like a difficult part as well, which is probably, you know, the IKEA one. Well, I feel like probably for some people, the reason IKEA things end up being quite difficult is they look at the instructions and be like, oh, I don't have time to sort of pass this. I'm just going to do what feels right. And then it not inevitably goes wrong, but there's things which can go wrong, which make it a shame. Because it's like, oh, it's so much more difficult than it needs to be. But I'm very much someone who's like, you have an instructional booklet, you must have made this for a reason. Presumably, it has got good instructions in it, so I'll follow it as it tells me to. I'm not here to improvise on my chest of drawers. I don't know how to make a chest of drawers. It's not a recipe, you know, for a meal. So I trust in the structural engineering of what happened to assemble it together. I also suppose a lot of it's the fact that I've done it a lot when I was younger as well, so that probably makes things a lot easier. I'm sure if I followed an instructional like booklet or something else, which I've not done a lot of, not that I can think of something off the top of my head, but I'd find it equally more, less difficult. Versus all the possibilities I consider there just by saying those sentences, where I can presumably consider it more difficult because I don't have, even if I don't have a lot of experience, you don't have like much of an innate knowledge behind these sort of things. Anywho, on that note, I'm going to round this episode off here. So, if you have been watching, thank you very much. It's been Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've been Dear Darling, and likes, comments, subscription, shares, greatly appreciated. Socials, Discord down below. Hope to see each other again, but for now, it's our farewell. So until next time, bye-bye for now.